Anyway, I have a chance to speak here today, and what I want to do is I want to give a reminder. The title of the sermon is A Reminder About 3 Reasons to Obey God. A reminder about 3 reasons to obey God, and again, there is a handout in the hall here for those who want it. Someone could ask, why do you call it a reminder? Well, because this subject of 3 reasons to obey God is something I talk about quite often. Sometimes I refer to it in various presentations, and through the years I've actually given specific presentations about that. In fact, if you remember, during the days of unleavened bread, I have it's in the bulletin, I have these 3 reasons listed the last couple years. Because to me it's certainly a valuable message, a valuable lesson from the Bible, and so I do post that during the days of unleavened bread. So you will see these and you'll say, oh yeah, I remember reading about that in the bulletin. Oh, I remember Havir and others talking about that. But the reason why I want to do it is people are dealing with a variety of situations. People are dealing with a lot of life experiences. And I think if we analyze why we obey God, what are we doing in this world? Why we obey God? We can analyze our motives. We can analyze our life. And hopefully this material can be very helpful to you. My traveling sermon, by the way, is very encouraging, and they love it. And I'm going to try to get out more to get that message out. I give a similar message when I'm going now because I'm trying to help people deal with the world conditions we have. And I've chosen this today to help our home congregation here and anyone listening in to analyze your 3 reasons to obey God, hopefully to encourage you. So here are the 3 reasons. Why do you obey God? Number 1, we obey God to be blessed now. Let's turn to John chapter 6. By the way, at first I was going to try to give a lot of details on these 3 points, and then I decided the next 3 Bible studies I give on Wednesday night, I'm going to go in greater detail on these things. So again, because I want to just go through and hit the main points today, and then during Bible study I can take my time and cover a lot of verses. I have on the handout some of the verses I intend to cover about obeying God and why it's a blessing to obey God. In fact, I chose for the scripture reading today, the scripture reading that Ron Avey read, I chose that because it ties into this first point. We obey God because obeying God is a blessing. Obeying God is a beautiful thing. And like I said, there's many, many verses that talk about that. But, obeying God is smart. Obeying God is a wonderful thing to do. And as we try to mention from time to time, obeying God doesn't make the obedient person better than the disobedient one. So please don't think because you obey God, you're more obedient. Obeying God's a blessing. I mentioned at the Wednesday night Bible study, something I'll mention again since I give you a chance to hear it. I'm so thankful that I grew up with my parents and also my contact with the Church of God when I was a teenager. Because contact with my parents and the Church of God helped save me from a lot of trouble. What I mentioned Wednesday night was I grew up about 100 miles away from Woodstock. And of course, Woodstock was something it turned out to be, it was supposed to be a music fest. They wanted it north of New York City, so they went out in the country. They went to a couple of places, and once they started, some of the city councils turned it down, so they ended up in Woodstock. And when this farmer let him have this big field. And it turned out to be much bigger than they ever imagined. And they had, I don't know if it was 500,000 people, but a lot of people up there. The rain came, they ran out of food. People were overdosing on drugs. It was a wild orgy, a lot of sex up there. But they had these guitarists, they'd fly them in, and they'd play this music. And for these young people at the time, and of course I was a teenager at the time, it was liberating that people had this freedom, and they were getting away from the establishment. Because this was right after John F. Kennedy, Robert Kennedy being killed, Martin Luther King being killed, students shot at Kent State. Really rough time, if you remember back at that time, of those of us who were older. It was a really rough time. Now, as I mentioned Wednesday night, I'm sure I was talking with my friends and they would be like, hey, Havir, are you going up to Woodstock? And I don't think I preached at them. I'm pretty sure as a teenager I didn't preach at them. I probably said something like, I'm thinking about it. I really wasn't thinking about it, but That's probably what I said to deal with the peer pressure. And I am so glad that I would not even go near that place. No matter what the people's sincerity was, by my parents' involvement in my life, and because of my contact with the Church of God, and even religion before the Church of God, obeying God is just a way of blessing. It doesn't make us better than anyone else when we obey. It's a way of blessing. So we obey God to be blessed now. I ask you to turn to John 6. I want to show you about John 6. Some of the citizens during the time of Jesus wanted blessings right then and there. And on one hand, it's like, well, is that the only reason people are doing it? But on the other hand, it can be a good thing too. Notice John chapter 6, verse 22. This was after Christ walked on water. On the following day, when the people were standing on the other side of the sea, they saw that there was no other boat there except the one that had the disciples, but Jesus wasn't there, and his disciples had gone alone. Verse 23, however, other boats came from Tiberias, near the place where they ate bread after the Lord had given thanks. So that was on their mind, the fact that he fed them. He fed them. You remember the miracles, the stories, how many times he fed them. Verse 24, when the people therefore saw that Jesus was not there and his disciples weren't there, they got into boats and came down to Capernaum. They were looking for Jesus. Why were they looking for him? Well, when they found him on the other side of the sea, they said to him, Rabbi, when did you get here? Why are you here? When did you get here? And notice what Jesus said, verse 26. Most assuredly I say to you, you seek me not because you saw the signs, but because you ate of the loaves and were filled. You were hungry, you had a good meal, I fed you well, and that's why you want to hang around me. Friends, that is not the worst thing in the world. Now, he's going to say it's be better to look for the food that doesn't perish. He's going to say it's better to look for things more important and more spiritual. But it's not wrong for us to try to help people who are hungry. If you're hungry, it's not wrong to have food. If you have needs, it's not wrong for your needs to be fulfilled. I had a preacher friend years ago who wanted to start a church in Longview. And he had a Wednesday night Bible study, and he asked me, he said, would you come over to my Bible study on my first Bible study? I said, okay. He was actually a car dealer friend of mine. And I went to his Bible study, and he was trying to reach the unchurched. And it didn't last very long. And as I explained to him, I said, you need a core of church people to reach the unchurched. I mean, yes, you want to reach out to the unchurched. You want to reach out to the troubled people. You want to reach out to the people who have a lot of things going against them. But to really be successful, I told them, you need a certain amount of churched people, dedicated people, certainly tithe-paying people or offering-giving people to build up a system where you can actually reach out and help people. And his church didn't last. He tried, and I even tried to help him, but by attending one Bible study with him. I think he wanted me to say something for 5 minutes. I think I spoke for 5 minutes. And there were a lot of people there who had a lot of needs, were walking through that door. But they didn't have a system set up to really help out. So again, there's nothing wrong with people wanting to be filled. You know, the Baptist Church in Gladewater, they have open lunch on Saturdays. I don't know what I know when David went down to school at TJC, on Wednesdays they would have free pizza for the students. And after they give free pizza for the students for the last 10 minutes, they would preach at them. And I would tell David, I said, don't mind the preaching. Get that free pizza and just sit there and enjoy a positive message. Don't worry about it. And of course, as a college student, he was enjoying that free pizza. The point is, people want to be their needs served. And there's so many needs out there right now. I wish that our church budget had a whole lot more to help the needy. You know, we help a lot of people, not only in our church, but outside our church, and we do it the best we can. But we can't solve all the needs of this world. But we try to do what we can. We try to help people's needs the best we can. And we try to manage our money well, and we have our board does a great job in managing our money. And I don't manage the money. I just I just manage the budget you as a congregation have given me for 20 years. I think I went to one budget committee for 10 minutes one time. Whatever amount of money you give to me, I try to live within those boundaries and try to do the best we can within that. But anyway, people want their needs served. Now let's just turn over to Matthew 19. And you say, yeah, but that's the citizens, but that doesn't happen to the Church of God. The Church of God don't just come to church for physical things, do they? The Church of God just don't hang around for firewood and other things, do they? Well, yes, sometimes that happens. And I'm telling you, that's not the end of the world. But this is only the first reason. The first reason, the second and third reason are deeper, and they should all work together. But in Matthew chapter 19, verses 27 through 29, we see here Peter said to him, "See, we've left all and have followed you. What shall we get? What's our reward going to be? What are the benefits for us?" So we see even Peter and the other disciples, although they were serving mostly for good reasons, they were human. And they were analyzing, is this worth it? Is all this serving worth it? Now, Jesus is going to give them two answers. He's going to talk about a greater reward later, but he also says there are some physical benefits today in their life. So verse 28, he said, "Assuredly I say to you, that in the regeneration, when the Son of Man sits on the throne of his glory, you who have followed me will also sit on 12 thrones, judging the 12 tribes of Israel. And everyone who has left houses or brothers and sisters and fathers or mother and wife or children or lands, if you've done it for my sake, for my name's sake, you will receive 100-fold. You will inherit eternal life, but good things will happen." So again, you have mothers, and I've got many mothers. Some of you in this hall here are like my mothers, and some of the people around the country are like my mothers. And as like my mother, sometimes you give me advice, oftentimes not asked for, but usually it's good advice. And even if it isn't the best advice, your heart's good. You want to make sure, consider this, do that, slow down, and you tell me all those things, and I appreciate you as mothers. And some of you are like brothers. Ken Tate, we call that he's my twin brother from a different mother. Ken Tate, he's 2 months older than me, and I've been married 2 days longer than him. So we're very similar in our lives, and so that we're like brothers. I appreciate Neil Parker and Lau Kirby, and on, Dennis Benson, and on, and their wives are really sweet people. And they, I go to some of these places, and they take good care of me as far as they feed me, and they're just nice to me, and they pray for me. And so I've got not only you praying for me, but a lot of people around the country are praying for me. And we have family, we have extended family. And these are not just simple relationships. These are deep relationships with some people. And I have a challenge right now. A big challenge I have is I actually like doing funerals to serve the family, and I'm pretty good at it. And I also don't mind going to funerals where I don't say a word. I don't mind just going to a funeral and showing up. I don't have to say anything. But I started making a list of all my friends and all of us who are older and analyzing, could I even go to all these funerals? Do I even have enough time to go to all these funerals? And I don't, because all my friends are old. And so I'll do my best to get to as many funerals as I can. If they ask me to do funerals, I'll do my best to actually participate in the funeral. But I just, right now, it's just, my friends and the age of my friends is just overwhelmingly that I don't know if I can get everywhere when something happens. I'm hoping tomorrow to go to the funeral for Garland's sister. I won't be saying anything there. I just want to be there because I want Garland and Leslie and the girls just to see me there. Because again, I don't mind going just to a funeral where someone sees me. In other words, seeing me that I'm there for you. I did that when Eric Leedy died. I went down to that funeral down near Austin, and I talked to Jeff Leedy that day. And Sharon Leedy called me up a couple days later and said she didn't even talk to me because a lot of people there. I said, it wasn't necessary for you to talk to me, but you saw me and you knew I was there to show support. And so I would love to show support and help out the best we can. But we have great friends. So again, to me, friends, obeying God is just smart. It's just a wonderful, smart thing to do. And that's why you obey, because you see how smart it is. The second reason, let's turn to Luke chapter 14. The second reason, to be blessed at the resurrection. To be blessed at the resurrection. Now, the reason I point this out is there are situations where obeying God does not produce the results you want at this time. You know, you say, well, I know a lot of Christians who are really, really wealthy. I know a lot of Christians who seem really, really happy. And they may have a certain amount of happiness to them. And of course, you don't always know what's going on at their home. But again, to me, that's not the sign of being a Christian, is to always be happy. The sign of being a Christian is to have a relationship with God, the Father and the Son of God, to have a relationship with them that they help you through tough times, because the Son of God is our role model. The Son of God suffered. And so thereby, if you obey God, you're going to have troubles at times. You're going to have challenges at times. In Luke chapter 14, verses 12 through 14, by the way, I'm going to, in the study when I talk about this point, I'm going to read from the book of Revelation about the beautiful blessings that are promised to us, that we are going to be blessed at the resurrection. But let's look at Luke 14, verses 12 to 14. When he said to him who invited him, when you give a dinner or a supper, do not ask your friends, do not ask your brothers, don't ask your relatives, don't ask your rich neighbors, because they can invite you back and you can be repaid. I'll do this for you, you do this for me. I'll do this for you, you do this for me. But when you give a feast, invite the poor, the maimed, the lame, the blind, and you will be blessed because they cannot repay you. Well, how will you be blessed if they can't repay you now? Well, Jesus said, well, you will be repaid at the resurrection of the just. Now, that's important because when you obey God, sometimes you reap great benefits right now. You receive great blessings right now because obeying God is really a smart thing to do. But you know how it is. Sometimes when you do the right thing, the benefit doesn't come right away. Now, if you're only doing it for the benefit, then you'll probably be a fair weather friend and you won't continue doing what you should be doing. But if you realize that this is what you should be doing, and you do it not because you have to be repaid, but you do it because it's the right thing to do, and you hopefully get satisfaction out of helping other people, the Lord notices. Our Father notices. And he will repay at the resurrection. Now, I'm not going to read the scripture where Jesus said, my God, why have you forsaken me? Friends, my life gets pretty hectic sometimes helping other people. Sometimes it's helping you. Sometimes it's helping friends around the country. Sometimes it's helping people in our community who really don't come to our church or spend time with us at all. There are people in our community, if they have a marriage problem, they give me a call. And I help them even though they never step foot in our building. Why would I do that? Same reason you would do it. That's what Jesus Christ would do. You help people. But you know, when I watch people, sometimes like you, life gets heavy. Life really, really gets heavy. And it's like, sometimes, by the way, life is not always fair. Life is not always fair. And so thereby you think, well, some people say, I'm only going to deal with things when it's fair. Well, you probably can't be a Christian then, because life's not always fair. And so what happens is you have to do the right thing because it's the right thing to do, and later on he'll make it right. But again, this is not the main reason why you're obeying God. The third reason is to willingly honor God now. To willingly honor him now. Let's turn to 2 Chronicles chapter 9, verse 7. By the way, I think this is kind of a stage of growth that people go through. A lot of times when people are first in the church, when they first have a relationship with God, they seek God's blessings and they love those blessings. And then they stumble across situations where they're not getting as blessed as much as they could be. So they read the promises about God will take care of it in the future. But then we mature to the point. This third one is the maturity step. And I think all three work together, but this is the maturity step. You obey God to honor him, to honor his name, to reflect his way of life. You want to be a servant of light. Look at 2 Corinthians 9, verse 7. Let each of us give as he purposes in his heart, not grudgingly, not of necessity, for God loves a cheerful giver. Friends, do not give because you have to give. Do not give because of guilt. Do not give because of manipulation. Do not let people guilt you into giving anything. Do not let people manipulate you into giving. What I'm about to say, at first glance you hear this, you may not like when I tell you how my wife and I feel about something. And you may never like it, although there are many of you who feel the same way about this. While hunger strikes are sad on one hand, my wife and I are not moved by hunger strikes. We're not moved by that. Now, you may think my wife and I are so mean and horrible, but we're not moved by that. To me, a hunger strike is just like a 3-year-old trying to get their own way. So when I hear that illegal immigrants in New Jersey are going on a hunger strike, that doesn't move me to show compassion upon them. If that moves you for compassion, great, because we can be different people. I'm just telling you, my wife and I bring her with me because it's not like I'm trying to force my views on her, or she's not trying to force hers on me. We're very compatible in this regard. So if someone says, I'm going to hold my breath until you do what I want you to do, I'm not motivated by that. If you say, I'm not going to give my tithe here if you don't do what I want to do, you give your tithe wherever you want to give your tithe. If you say, whatever, I'm not going to say nice things about you unless you do what I want you to do, you say what you want to say. My wife and I are not motivated to be manipulated by guilt or manipulation. That's just not something we care for. We don't do it to each other. And I feel sorry for you if you husband and wives sometimes do that to each other. You know, kids will try it on us. Quite frankly, any kid worth his salt is going to try it, in my opinion. That may not be in the books that you read, but any kid worth his salt who's trying to find his own self-identity and trying to find his own self-esteem, any kid's going to try it, and you have to be wise enough to deal with it. Obviously, you hopefully don't do it, but if they try it, shame. It's not shame on them for trying it. It'd be shame on us to let these things work on us. We don't want to be manipulated. We don't want to batter eyes at people. We don't want to sugarcoat it. We don't want to sweet talk them. Personally, friends, and I know I've got a lot of you the same way, I'm a cheerful giver. If you ask me to do something and I agree to do it, I will do it cheerfully, because I can cheerfully say no. And there are times I cheerfully say no. If you ask me to do something that I don't think I can do or don't want to do, I will try to politely say no. But on the other hand, if I say yes, like sometimes people will do this, they'll say I'll do something for someone and it'll take longer than they thought, or I'll talk on the phone a long time and they'll start apologizing like, I'm sorry that I made you stay on the phone so long. Well, technically you didn't make me do anything. So technically you didn't make me stay on the phone that long. If I stayed on the phone that long, it's because I chose to do so. Because I have no problem saying, I've enjoyed talking to you, I'll get back to you, but I have other things to do, I will talk to you later. We'll finish up this conversation later. So I know it's really nice of you to say, I'm sorry I made you take time to do this. You didn't make anything, you just made a request. And as friends, we do that for each other. And that's the same way, by the way, I jokingly say that all of you can say no to me. Seriously, all of you can say no to me. If I ask you to do something, you should feel no pressure at all. Do you know how many men say no when I ask them to speak? I wish I had $1 for every man who said no to me when I ask them to speak. I would really be rich. If I ask you to work in the kitchen, don't feel like, oh, he asked me, I guess. Don't ever think God's asking you because I'm asking you. Why do I say that? Because that's what other churches will do. So like if the leader asks you, it's from God. No, it's not. It could be a good principle, but it's not God saying you have to do something. It's okay to say no. It's okay. I'll give you an example. An example had just worked this week. I really was happy about it. Linda Aviat asked me if could we not have a potluck on Pentecost. She has a plan how we can feed people without a full potluck. Now you can imagine why she doesn't want a full potluck. The reason is it puts a lot of strain on a few workers. Okay? That's the reason. And so I said, sure. So CGI said they may come up. So I went to Linda and said, do you think we can have a full potluck if CGI comes up? I said, I'll do the dishwasher. Because again, some of the individuals who used to do the dishwasher are no longer doing it. And I said, I don't want her doing it because it hurts her to do it. So in other words, if that's an objection or a challenge, I'll solve that problem. I'll do the dishwasher. And she said she'd still rather not have a full potluck. So guess what's happening if they come up Pentecost? No full potluck. Because our main worker in the kitchen doesn't want it. She said no to me, and I didn't press it. In fact, I don't want her to change her mind. I didn't say this to manipulate her. If she says I want to change it, I say please don't, because I'm happy you said no. It's a good example for the whole congregation to say everybody can say no to me, and that's the only way I'd want it. That's the only way I'd want it. But by the way, I can also say no to you, and that's the way you should want it too. We try to do it politely with each other. We try to do honestly with each other. We want to be cheerful givers. Look at 1 Peter chapter 5. 1 Peter chapter 5. Verses 1 through 3. This is talking about elders. Friends, I look at you all as leaders. I look at you all as leaders. So thereby all of you should do the functions of an elder, meaning all of you should be a leader, because all it means is a servant. All of you should be servants. So let's apply this to everybody, okay? Everyone who's hearing this voice to be a servant. The elders who are among you, I exhort, and I'm a fellow elder, I'm a witness of the sufferings of Christ, and a partaker of the glory that will be revealed. Here's verse 2, the advice. Shepherd the flock of God which is among you, serving as overseers. Help, serve, lead. Serve, wash feet, serve. Don't do it by compulsion. Don't be guilted into it. Don't be manipulated into it. Don't feel like, I've got to earn salvation by it. Don't do it for any of those reasons. Not right. When you serve, do it willingly, of the heart. Again, you're wanting to willingly honor God. You want to willingly love God, and you want to willingly love your neighbor. Don't do it for dishonest gain, but do it eagerly. Don't be an overlord, that you're over someone. I know. The whole world's looking about being over people. I get it. People are trying to be over, it's not only in churches that are trying to be over, but now look at our people in our governments are trying to be over people. Instead of being servants of the people, I get it. We no longer are seeing a lot of servants of the people. I get it. We're having a lot of people, the rich are getting richer, and they're trying to elevate the poor to at least be in a type of socialistic thing where they get some free money, and they're going to pull it off, by the way. A year ago, last January, a year ago, I laughed when I saw that they were going to bring socialism to the United States. I said, no way. And then I laughed when I read the Green New Deal and about cows passing gas and everything else, which you read about in the official documents of the Green New Deal. You read those documents. I laughed. It's like, no way. A year later, socialism is creeping into the United States, and they're going to push that Green New Deal. And that is one of the benefits of Joe Biden beating Donald Trump. Things are going to go bad probably in the midterms for him. He's got 2 years to make a lot of changes. They're already talking about a lot of changes. They're talking about having no gas cars in 15 years. Wow. And you say, well, I'm not so sure it's going to happen. Well, I'm not so sure it's going to happen, but that's where we're headed anyway. You just read what the government says they're going to do. Read the government's own papers. Just read the government's own papers, the things they want. Just read it, and you'll see it. Anyway, it's just amazing to watch. It's just amazing to watch. So we don't want to be overlords. We want in our life, as a husband, you want to be the right example. As a person on your job, you want to be the right example. As a person in the congregation, you want to be the right example. However you're among the community, you want to be the right example. But it's watching this happen is really just amazing to watch it. So anyway, he's telling us here, this is how we should do it. And when the chief shepherd appears, you will receive the crown of glory that does not fade away. Let's finish the last verse I'd like to look at. I got a few minutes here. 2 Timothy chapter 2. 2 Timothy chapter 2, verses 19 through 21. 2 Timothy 2, verses 19 through 21. I want to plan to give a whole sermon just on this verse, these verses right here. But I want to give it today to talk about it. What's the foundation of God? Well, there's many things in the Bible you could read as the foundation of God. Let's look at verse 19 as two principles of the foundation of God. If I were to ask you what are the foundation of God, you might not give these two answers. However, these two answers are listed here in Paul's letter. Nevertheless, the solid foundation of God stands, having this seal. The Lord knows those who are his. Any effort you have to try to identify a true Christian is not going to be complete. Anyone who says their group is the only group, that's nonsense. They've been smoking marijuana. That's nonsense. There's no one group that has all of God's people. It's never been that way. I know 35 years ago, I had the wrong idea about that 35 years ago. But I still have friends who still have that wrong idea. It doesn't matter how loud they are. It doesn't matter how energetic they are. It doesn't matter how persuasive they are. It's not right. They don't know. The Lord knows those who are his. So I wouldn't waste an ounce of energy trying to figure it out. But I would then take the second part, because the second part applies to me and to you. Let everyone who names the name of Christ depart from iniquity. Do you name the name of Christ? I do. Instead of wasting time trying to figure out who the two witnesses are, instead of wasting time trying to figure out when the abomination of desolation is going to come, and try to figure out who's going to be what, and who's this and who's that, be nice to everybody. Agree with people when they're right, disagree with people when they're wrong. And you, if you name the name of Christ, depart from iniquity. Willingly. We want to focus on the right thing. Most of this world is a distraction. Most of this world is a distraction. Friends, most of religion is a distraction. In a great house, there are not only vessels of gold and silver, but also wood and clay, some for honor and some for dishonor. Verse 21, please notice these words. If anyone cleanses himself from the latter, from the dishonorable things, you can be a vessel of honor. You can be a vessel of honor, sanctified and useful for the master, prepared for every good work that he wants you to do. So friends, I'm going to cover these in greater detail. But why do you obey? I think you obey because you like the blessings it produces now, because you're smart. That's a smart thing to do. I think you obey knowing that some of the rewards are going to come at the resurrection, and you have deferred gratification because you know it's going to be okay. I don't have to be rewarded today. And I think you obey God because you want to willingly honor God as a vessel of honor.